introduce yourself, explain what you would like to talk about, your name and your pronouns, and then we can go from there.
Sure. So my name is Ryland. My pronouns are he, him, and I am transgender male. Um, I had a pretty similar, I guess you could say, story of finding out who I am. I started off saying that I was bi and learned that was far from the truth. Then from there, kind of came out as lesbian until I learned what transgender was and how I kind of fit in that category. Um, I started my transition about a year ago. I'm going on 2 years in May. And that itself has been a whole nother journey, so to speak. I have family members who are like passive aggressive. So sometimes I don't know where I stand in that sense. But I think it's more of a learning curve for my family. So I have to say that I'm pretty blessed where they might say something that might be transphobic, and it might bother me for the moment, but we have that understanding like this is something that's new to them. They don't fully agree, but they're trying to learn, which is great. Um, Luckily enough, as well, I'm going to be finally getting top surgery, which is cool, in June. Pretty.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. I'm pretty scared, but also like happy about it. Scared in the sense of like the recovery process.
Mhm.
Um, I have a pretty decent team, but I also lose insurance the very next month, so I don't know how that's going to play out. Um, but I think that's probably where I'll focus the most on. It's not something that's like really talked about. Um, Getting top surgery is like a rewarding thing, but there's also scariness to it. Being also overweight, it's like that's an aspect. Um, Again, losing insurance, not knowing how I'm gonna continue the aftercare process when I turn 26. Because now I don't know what insurance I'm going to get. If I get the state insurance, I don't know what doctors accept it, and I would like to keep like my same team. In terms of mental health, I suffer from anxiety and depression. Um, I got that as an adult, so it's still kind of like fairly new to me, but I'm in the process of learning how to kind of cope with it. Um, I think with my transition, it helped, but also made things worse at the same time. Helped in the sense that I feel more confident with like who I am, but also with today's world makes it also just as scary.
So, when did you come out as trans? Like, what year?
I came out in 2019 is when I kind of started exploring that. I came out more to my best friend, and then from there, I remember kind of coming out to my mom, and she just let me kind of like cry on her shoulder because I didn't know like what she was gonna say. Um, but it was like that first initial coming out to her was more of like this is just a phase, is how she saw it. When I started hormones, is when it kind of like became real for her.
So, you said that you thought you were bi at first. Were you getting hate for being bi?
Um, Honestly, I have to say I was blessed in the sense that I did not. It was coming out as bi was more of like so my mom had that like hope that there's a chance that I still could be with a man. Um,
Mm.
but I never really saw myself like having any type of like relationship with a man. But thankfully, the school that I went to was like during high school, and there was actually like super pro LGBT. So I was actually pretty safe.
Was it hard to come out, even though that you knew in a sense that it was going to be like kind of easy, since at the time you were coming out as bi to your mom?
Um, it was hard in the sense that I guess saying it out loud makes it real. Um,
Mhm.
I kind of like just internalized everything. So when I vocally said it, it was like, oh my god, this is like real life now. Um, Coming out to my friends was actually a lot more easier than my family because I already knew my friends were going to be very accepting. Um, my mom coming out as bi was actually pretty accepting. It's when I started to like come out as lesbian and then trans that was like a little bit more, I guess, harder, you can say.
Mhm. Have you had any like support during your trans progress and what you've been doing, or were there little bumps in the road?
I've had support with like my friend group. Bumps on the road would be more for like my family. Um, the bumps, I guess, was more like my mom. and some extended family. They had, obviously brought in the religion aspect of it. Um, I had this one aunt who told my mom that she feels like there's this like demon feeding on my soul, and that's why I'm going through what I'm going through. Um, and I guess that's like the major bump. It actually affected me for a while hearing that comment. Um, but in terms of friends, my support system is pretty great.
So you were religious, or are you religious?
I like to say I'm religious, but I kind of follow like my own thing. Um, like I'm Catholic, but I choose to see religion more of like how I make it, if that makes any sense.
No, that's completely fair. A lot of people have their own views in their own religion. So religion is what you make it to be. It's not really by the book because it's different for everybody.
Right.
Plus, the book was made like thousands of years ago, so things
Absolutely.
have, things have definitely changed in the world now. So you're 26, which means I'm assuming you live on your own, or if you're with somebody significant other.
I currently still live at home with my mom. I can't afford to
Yeah,
move out.
it
Um,
is very expensive.
yeah, I'm 25. I turned 26 in July.
Ah, so is living with her, is she more accepting now, or is she still kind of on the wishful thinking? Because I know with top surgery coming up, she's definitely gonna be supportive, but also like, religion plays a big factor in it.
Yeah, she herself is like on the fence where like she knows like where I stand with it, and she may disagree with it, but for the most part she'll try her best to be supportive. And I guess that relationship with her is it makes it easier to not feel so like I guess depressed when she makes certain comments because I know that she's trying, but certain things she just like doesn't understand. Um,
Mhm.
if I didn't see the effort, I think that's where there would be like a lot of like tension. Um, but for her, she's actually going to be like my caregiver right after surgery, so she's aware of it, and I actually had some issues in terms of like pain in my chest as well. So this is kind of like overall a better option, whether like I decided to transition or not. So coming from like that aspect, she's pretty supportive.
The support is there, but how do you feel like yourself? Are you like kind of scared for top surgery that's coming up?
Yeah, more scared of like the healing process, like having to get the drains out. I've seen a lot of like TikToks of like guys talking about it, and they say it's like a really weird feeling. I don't know if I want to like go through that part, but I know it's part of the process, and I'm a little nervous having to do like my tea at that point. I switched from the needle to the gel, and I know I won't be able to like lift my hands a certain um, like length once I get the surgery, and I need to put the gel like on my shoulders. Um, and I know my mom probably will not touch it, so I guess that's like my other issue. Um, but I think the healing process, knowing that it's going to be somewhat of a long process, just makes it a little scary.
I mean, the healing process is definitely gonna take a little bit. I know a couple of people who've had top surgery, as well as I did my research on it. It's definitely gonna be painful, but the result is definitely gonna be amazing. Um, and you're when do you have the top surgery again?
June 11th.
Oh, it's coming up fast.
Yeah.
Are you, like, preparing for it? Do you have any, like, ideas of what you're gonna do, like, before it? Any, like, setup or anything like that?
So like the way my house is set up, my room's like in the attic and my mom's like in the second floor. So during that time I'll be in like in the second floor with her, so it's just easier for her to keep an eye on me. Um,
Okay.
Kind of saving some shows and movies that I like to watch and just kind of keeping it to the side so that during that time I can just binge.
Definitely a good way to get up on all your shows.
Right.
And is there, like, any specific thing that you wanna do after you get top surgery? Are you gonna, like, record your process during it as well? Because I know a lot of people do.
I wanted to, but there's also that aspect of social media. You're gonna get like that hate, which is completely normal, like anything you do. I think mentally, I don't know if I'm fully ready for that. So I might like if I do record it, it'll be more for like myself, until I gain that like confidence and wanting to post it. But after surgery, I really want to hit like the gym hard and stuff like that because I am overweight and my career path is actually criminal justice, and I need to kind of get on my bike with that.
Criminal justice, what made you choose that?
This is gonna sound kind of funny, but when I was 4, my stepfather at the time actually gifted me like this trench coat
Mm.
for Christmas, and I put it on, and I was like, "Oh my god, I look like an FBI agent!" And that's all it took. From that point on, I was like, "I'm gonna do criminal justice when I get older."
Aw. So, what type of like criminal justice specifically do you know you're gonna do?
I started off wanting to go into the FBI route, but I did flunk a year of college, and then I dropped out and ended up going back.
Mm.
Um, So I started kind of exploring the canine unit, um, but now I'm actually going back to school for my master's in Homeland Security. So I think the end goal now is going to be just getting a job in Homeland Security.
Which pays really good.
Yeah, gotta chase the money.
It's yeah. So, how do you think people are gonna feel like your friends and everything? Are they like already congratulating you before you even got the top surgery and everything?
Yeah, once they noticed I started talking about like, oh my god, I got a top surgery date. That's when everybody's like, oh my god, like it's actually happening. My best friend in real life, she moved to upstate New York, so it's a little harder for us to kind of connect right now. But um, she was like the first person that I also came out to, so that's like my rock. And We actually call each other like family because like our parents ended up getting close through our friendship. And every time I like go through some type of bump in the road or anything related to like my transition, that's like the first person I go to. And then she's also part of the LGBTQ community, so it's like she relates.
So, she's part of the LGBT?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you definitely do have like people there who are congratulating you. In college, though, is anybody like accepting as well? Because I know college is very tricky where some people are okay with it, some people are very disrespectful. I'll put it in the nicer way. They're very disrespectful about it.
Yeah, for college, when I went back to college, I actually didn't know you can change like your name and stuff, and I ended up taking a songwriting class, and we had an assignment where we were co-writing with our classmates, and the first person I got paired with happened to also be part of the LGBTQ plus community,
Mhm.
and she's the one who kind of told me that Willie P allows you to like have your preferred name and your pronouns and stuff like that. And she actually went through the process with me on how to do that. So once I did like that stuff, it was actually a pretty smooth ride. The only thing was like pronouns. I'm not the type to kind of correct pronouns. So if they get called like she, her, I'm just like, it is what it is. Um, so I guess that was like my only hurdle. But in terms of like having being called my preferred name, like that was like awesome.
So why don't you really care for pronouns?
I guess it's more of an acceptance. Like I know some people are just not gonna know, and because I still have a chest, they'll automatically say she, her. Um, it's more of just that, like I guess you could say acceptance of it. Like I know that it's not gonna be all he, him, and I'm not really a stickler when it comes to pronouns because like I feel confident being called he, and I know like where I stand. So if I get called like the wrong pronoun, it doesn't really bother me.
Hmm. So you don't you changed everything in college now, like your name and everything like that?
Through college, yeah, but not legally yet.
Um, I believe Hudson Pride also offers name change services. I'm not sure if it's free or not, so you would have to ask Gabby. I believe she's the main person who does that. But I know they offer name change services for anybody over 18. So if you're, well, if you don't want to bring a parent with you, anybody over 18. But I know they offer it. So if you want to do it legally, definitely go to HCCC, that's college, Hudson Pride when you can, and try to see if you can like sign up for it or at least fill out an application for it.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that they offer. So even if you like don't know what you want, kind of ask like what do you guys offer for trans people or just in general, what do you guys offer? They have a lot of like programs or they'll refer you to people and everything like that.
So cool.
Do you take any like therapy or anything?
Yeah, I've actually have been in and out of therapy since I was 19. But I finally found like a long term therapist around September of this or 2023. Um,
Mhm.
and I've been pretty consistent with them. I see them weekly to kind of make sure that I'm all right because I know life kind of takes a toll after some time.
Does it help with your depression a little bit taking those steps to go in therapy?
Absolutely. I strongly believe in therapy, but I think a lot of the misconception is not having the right therapist and not
Mm.
knowing that you don't have the right therapist. I've been thankful enough to find the person that kind of like complements like what I'm looking for. But definitely, like I still go through like my days where I'm like a little bit low, but then I kind of have that like I'm looking forward to my therapy session because I know that I'll have like no judgment there.
Are you on any meds of any kind, like because of like your depression and anxiety?
Not at the moment. I used to be on Lexapro, and then it didn't fit well, and then I switched to Zoloft, which seemed to fit a lot better for me. I don't want to be like I guess dependent on the pills. Like I want to be able to mentally get myself out of let's say a panic attack.
Yeah.
Um, so I chose to kind of get off of it, but I'm not opposed to going back on it if I needed to.
When you get your top surgery, are you thinking about getting bottom surgery next? Is that your next goal, or are you happy with how you are currently?
Um, I think at that moment I'll be like happy, but like I do want bottom surgery in the long run, but I know that the research, I guess you could say, for bottom surgery is not as, um, I guess, explored compared to top surgery. So I
Mhm.
kind of want to hold off on it, but the goal would be to eventually get it as well.
Is there any other goals that you have regarding your identity per se? Like any goals at all? It could be simple from like what you want to do tomorrow to like long term next couple of years.
Um, Part of me actually had this idea for a podcast, ironically, just talking about life. Um, that's kind of like something that I do like music on the side, so I have like an intro that I created, and I just haven't developed I guess you could say like episodes. So I kind of like hold off on that, but I think I want to take music a little bit more seriously. I do have like two release songs like on platforms, but I know that it needs work in terms of like mixing and producing and all that. So
Hmm.
I guess my goal would be to learn more in that sense so that I can actually like really go into music hard.
Well, I would definitely like to check out your music, so definitely send me the link after we're done.
Sure.
But I mean, if you want to do a podcast or even just release more music, I know like it might be a little sucky because there's not many like cheap producers or cheap anything really to do with music, but you can try your best to find maybe like a group of people who do their own little things and maybe have a music group for now until you're all able to like learn from each other and then start your solo career.
Yeah, that's the goal. I think kind of working with other people makes music just that much beautiful. So that sounds good.
Yeah, so definitely like if you I know it's like cringe, a lot of people don't really use Facebook, but some like you can find good things on Facebook if you look. Like go on Facebook or Instagram and just like make posts about you looking for band members, but do your little interview, see if you're comfortable with those people because a lot of music people are very homophobic and transphobic. So you definitely got to make sure your safety is first.
Right.
But definitely try to set up at least online interviews, see if they got what you're looking for and everything like that. At least it's like something you could do in the background until you're 100% certain of what you want, where you want to go next for your career.
Right. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. And for your podcast, I mean, what are you thinking of like doing with it other than like talking about your like can you elaborate a little bit more?
Sure. So I have it right now labeled as things that keep you up at night, and
Mhm.
it's gonna be more of just kind of like talking about I guess today's world and the things that are scary about it, and almost like a I guess you could say like a therapy vlog type vibe where it's just me kind of ranting about things that I agree with and things that I don't agree with, and more of just kind of hoping that somebody who listens to it is possibly going through the same thing that I am, and it just helps them knowing that they're like not alone. Um, so I want it to be kind of like a therapy where it's not the traditional one-on-one.
Mhm. And if you were to do that, when would you want to start it? Because I may know a couple people who would definitely go on the podcast and also try to help out in um the kind of getting your name out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wouldn't mind starting it like as soon as possible. I don't have like a I guess an outline yet, so that's kind of like why I never started it, and not having that like knowing where to start. So that's cool to have those connections.
Now, is there anything like you kind of want to talk about but you're not sure how to?
Um, I guess more of just like I noticed that there's a lot of it's kind of like a touchy topic, but there's a lot of things with like within our community that kind of gives us like a bad name, and I feel
Mhm,
like that always just brings like makes it harder for us to feel comfortable to come out and kind of talk about our journey because we have some people in within our community that kind of just makes it harder. I actually saw this TikTok of a trans woman talking about how she gets her period and now goes through cramps, something like that, where it's not like physically possible, and now like the comments is like coming at her and things like that, and it just kind of it almost made it seem like we're a joke, even though we're not. And I think that's something that's very common in our community. And I know the feeling of wanting to experience what like the traditional woman or traditional man goes through. So I understand where like the trans person was coming from, but it's also like a way of doing it. And I think that happens a lot within any community where we have like a group that just kind of puts a bad name on us.
mhm. You know, that's kind of funny because in the last podcast episode that was just uploaded on Friday, yesterday, they had said something similar. They were talking about how a lot of, trans slash just LGBTQ people do make a mockery of themselves and does make us look like a joke. They said the exact same thing and they elaborated with it, like kind of explaining how they felt. Have you been around anybody who like kind of does that? Makes a mockery of it in front of you too?
Um, Thankfully, no. I think if I was, it'd make things like really uncomfortable. Um, but it's more of like social media. Like I'll see a video of someone kind of doing that, or someone reacting to another video, and it kind of makes like this negative cloud kind of come out because it's like we want to kind of be known and so that we're comfortable in our skin and in society, but they make it like really hard. So it's almost like you shut down a little bit.
Mhm. Do you feel like those people are kind of silencing the trans people who are struggling or the gay people who are struggling?
Absolutely. I think with the way they kind of perceive how transitioning and things like that work makes it more harder for those who are wanting to come out but haven't yet. And I think that having that group that makes us seem like a joke, unfortunately, makes people not want to come out, and it kind of just silence us as a whole.
Mhm. And if you could, I mean, I know you're going into criminal justice, like you said, if you could do anything, like let's say you were in a unit, like you get a job where you're working with trans slash gay people and you have to deal with somebody who did a mockery and let's say they get sentenced. What would you do? Would you like how would you handle that situation?
I think talking to someone in a respectful way, but in a way that they understand is gonna be very have a very positive outcome where like everybody understands certain things differently. So I think one understanding how the person just understands anything would help because one method might not work for one person but will work for another. So I think understanding how just people in general work would be a huge help. But I would definitely kind of have like a sit down and talk to this person and explain to them why what they're doing is so damaging in a way that they understand.
And do you think that they would understand and try to fix it, or do you think it kind of depends on what they're saying initially?
It I guess it depends on what they're saying initially. For them to understand it, kind of it's like a two-way street. It'll depend on how I elaborate it to them, and it also depend on if they're willing to kind of learn from their mistake. Um, I feel like if they kind of are one of those people who are just like, I'm always right, it'll be very hard for them to kind of break out of that mentality. But I think it depends on kind of like how they were explaining like their side and if they're willing to kind of change.
Okay. So your head is definitely in the right place, and you're definitely going to become a good criminal justice lawyer.
Thank you.
Of course. Um, I have a question, a couple of questions about you taking tea, but I'm just going to form it into one question. What was your experience with it? Were you like afraid and anything like that? Like, tell me your experience about it.
Um, so when I first like spoke to my doctor, my primary doctor, thankfully enough, is also specializes in hormones, so I got kind of blessed with that. And when everything was finalized, she pretty much told me it's now on you. When you're ready, you tell me, and we prescribe it. So the ball was in my court when it came to that. And I think I was hesitant at first more because my mom didn't know that I actually kind of already spoke to my doctor about like this is the path that I wanted to go. And she wouldn't know if I said yes today. She wouldn't know that I actually started like the hormone process and all that. Um, I like to be very fluid with my mom and like her to know like what's going on so that it's not that big of a shock to her. So I like to keep her in the loop a lot. So I spoke to her first before I said yes. Um, and she didn't agree with it, but I told her pretty much like, I'm sorry, this is kind of where I'm going, but I wanted to tell you so you're not left in the dark.
Mhm,
Um, when I got the prescription, I had pulled it out from the pharmacy and I took it to my doctor so that we can kind of do the first initial shot together. And doing the shot, I had no problem. She told me how to do it. I did it and it was easy. Um, as months went on, it started to get harder to do my shot. Um, I started to have like really bad anxiety when it came to it. In my mind, I feel like I created this scenario that if I were to hit a vein, I would just kind of bleed out. Um, so sometimes when I would try to do the shot and I feel like a pinch, it would stop me from actually going through with it.
mhm,
And unfortunately, that allowed me to miss my shots and kind of prolong it. So from there, I spoke to my doctor about like what's going on. They recommend that I can go to the office and just kind of do the shot there, but that unfortunately is also a copay. So I don't want to spend my copay every time to do my shot weekly when I know that prior to that I was able to do the shot at home.
mhm,
Um, so I then requested to switch to the T patch, um, and when she prescribed it, it got delayed for about 3 weeks. Um, so there was 3 weeks where I was just like off hormones, and I think that kind of put me in another like depressive episode because I really wanted to be on hormones, but I couldn't physically bring myself to take the shot anymore, and the patch was just back ordered. Eventually, the patch got canceled, and I found out that it was discontinued due to it causing like heart issues.
mhm,
So now I kind of felt like I was stuck again because I knew that if I were to switch to the gel, that means I can't have like any physical contact for about like 5 or 6 hours. And because I don't live alone and I do have a puppy, I thought it was like very unrealistic. Um, so I started to kind of push myself to do the shot a little bit longer until I just really just couldn't do it anymore, and I switched to the gel. My doctor told me to do it at night to kind of alleviate that not having that contact with people, and it seems to be working. I did have anxiety when I first switched to the gel, um, but now I've been on the gel for about 6 months now, um,
mhm,
and it's okay. If I can get off the gel, I would, but I think not having somebody close by to do the shot does put a wrench, which makes me stick to the gel. I called Walgreens. I asked them if they can do the shot for me if I were to show up. They told me no. I spoke to my local urgent care and they also told me no. So I think that's kind of what made me stick to the gel. But if I had a choice, I would go back to the shot.
So do you still have that internalized, there we go, fear of the shot?
Yeah, I know there's like sometimes when I do it, I don't feel anything, and it makes me feel like, oh my god, this is easy. And then the following week, it's like I feel that like pinch or like pain when I do it, and I'm like, okay. So that kind of like yo-yo feeling makes me not want to do it myself. But if someone else does it, I can kind of like hack it better.
And your mom won't do it, right?
No, I had asked her. She said no.
Yeah, and there's nobody else who could do it, so you feel like the gels are just the better option currently?
Right.
How
Um,
how does the testosterone gel work?
so for me, it comes in like little packets. So I would just kind of like empty the whole packet between both my shoulders.
Mhm.
Um, I would have to let it dry and make sure I don't have any contact during that time. And then once it dries, I can kind of just throw on a shirt and go to bed. But every morning I do have to shower and kind of rinse off the gel, and then I'm okay with any type of contact from that point on.
So what time do you usually put it on? Because I know some people like time it every day, and some people just put it on random.
For me, as long as it hits like around 8 p.m., then from that point on, I can take it like anytime.
Mhm.
Um, I try to take it late, but not too late, um, so that I can kind of like go to bed from there. Once I put on like my gel, I don't kind of see my mom or my younger sister so that I can avoid that contact. So I try to do it around between like 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. I don't like to do it too late because it does smell like alcohol, and because it's like close to like my shoulders and my nose, it actually gives me a little bit of like anxiousness smelling it.
Mhm.
So I don't like to be anxious like when I'm about to go to bed. So I try to do it between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m.
How do you think your anxiety is gonna like play a role in the next couple of months when after you get your top surgery and even before?
I think I expect it to be a little bit more intense during those times. Just because one, I'm gonna be home, and sometimes being home, stuck in the same room, kind of puts you in that anxious slash depression mindset. Um,
Mm.
but I also feel very hopeful that I do have a weekly therapist that I see, and I am with my mom during that time. I know she's gonna, whether she agrees with it or not, I know she's gonna try to be as supportive as possible, so that allows me to have that comfort. Um, I think it's gonna be kind of like a roller coaster where I'll start off kind of rough and then just kind of mellow out and be fine towards the end.
Hmm. Do you think that you may want to set like a plan just in case your anxiety gets really bad? Like a just in case emergency plan?
Yeah, I got the Trevor Project hotline from one of my doctors a while ago. So I have that in place just in case like it gets that bad. My therapist also did tell me that if I ever was in a rough state like that, that I could also just call or text her as well.
Mm.
Um, so I know that as much as I don't want her to be on call because it's not fair to her, I know that she's a safety blanket in case I have to go that route. And my mom as well. During my roughest like anxious moments, my mom kind of has witnessed it all. Um, so she knows that I go through it, and there's times that are super intense. And as much as we might not fully agree, she has always been my safety blanket. So I know that I'm okay knowing that she's like next to me.
So are you excited overall? Even though of course you're gonna be a little scared, are you excited for this journey?
I'm very excited. Actually, for Jersey, when you Google like surgeons, Dr. Jonathan Keith pops up.
Mhm.
Um, and I actually tried to get my surgery with him, but he ended up getting someone who's actually brand new in his office named Dr. Drew Moreno. And he graduated from like Harvard, and he studied under Jonathan Keith, and his results from what I've seen are so amazing. And when I had my consultation, he gave me so much information and made me feel very comfortable. So I think, with knowing who my surgeon's going to be and seeing his results, I'm actually very excited and happy that that's the doctor that I have.
So they talked you through the whole process of like um top surgery, the aftercare, right?
Yes.
How long is the aftercare gonna take?
So my first week, I'll have my drains in. Um, they have to reach a certain amount of liquid before they can take them out. Um,
Mhm.
so if all goes well within my first week, I can take them out. And then from there, it'll be my second week. He just kind of checks in, and I believe he takes off like the nipple grafts. Um, and then at that point, it becomes like a monthly thing, where it's just like you see the doctor. He kind of checks, see how progress is going. Um, so at first, it's kind of like intensive care, making sure that everything's like working right and your body's like kind of healing good. And from that point on, it's more, I think it's like a month and then it's like 3 months until you hit a year. Once you pass that year mark, it's like you're on your own and everything's good.
So top surgery is definitely gonna be a big thing in your future. And are you currently working?
Yes.
How is the top surgery gonna go after you work? Are you gonna call off or are they like accommodating you? How is that gonna work?
I got lucky enough that I got a job where I interned at. Um, so they kind of already knew like my story and that stuff. So in terms of like feeling safe, I do feel very safe there. They're very respectful when it comes to like my pronouns and things like that. So they kind of already knew that eventually I'll go into like the top surgery and all that. So I just kind of spoke to my boss, let her know that I got a date, and right now I'm actually going to be out for a month with them.
Mhm.
Um, as long as I get clearance from my doctor to go back to work. So they're actually really accepting. They already know my dates and all that, and they're kind of just accommodating.
Well, that's honestly pretty good because I know some work they don't really help out. So are you gonna be like comfortable going back to work? And are you gonna be happy?
Um,
That's one of the main important things is being happy.
right. Happiness is gonna, I think, come for the fact that I know that I'm safe where I work. So that alone is gonna be some type of happiness. But I work for a nonprofit, and my job specifically is like the food pantry stuff. And my volunteers that help me out are the older generation, and they don't know like my situation.
Mhm.
So I think it's just gonna be more awkward in that sense, and they're very like very nice ladies, so I don't expect them to kind of come off as rude or anything like that. I think it's just more like awkward. Um, kind of coming back, and they're gonna know that I no longer have a chest and all that. So I think I stress it more than what the outcome really is gonna be. Um, but overall, I think the transition, maybe my first month is just gonna be a little weird, but from that point on, it's gonna be alright.
I feel like everybody's gonna be very congratulating towards you. Are you gonna be okay to like deal with that? I know you're gonna be happy, but anxiety definitely plays a big role factor in it. So are you kind of like scared that your anxiety may take over the excitement?
A little bit, yeah. When COVID hit is when like my anxiety like really kind of peaked out. So I don't like people like looking at me for like long periods of time and things like that. I've learned to kind of deal with that as time kind of moves on, but I think my anxiety might come a little bit into play. But my boss also knows that I'm regularly in therapy and things like that. So I feel comfortable enough that if I were to have a panic attack, that I can openly tell my boss like I gotta go, and she'll be like very understanding.
So what's your plan in the future after you get top surgery and possible bottom surgery and everything? What are your next steps? What do you want your future to look like?
Well, currently I'm in a relationship with someone that I really truly see a future with. Unfortunately, it is long distance. So while I'm in Jersey, she's in Texas. So I from this point on, once I get like my surgery and like financially like situated, I plan to see her as often as I can, so that I can like meet her parents and she can meet my mom and things like that, so that we can actually like start an actual life together. Um,
Mhm.
and then also just kind of getting into my career so that I can financially help my mom, and we can kind of like get a house together, so we can kind of move out. My older sister, just had another baby, so like I want to be closer to her. So it's just more of just kind of getting my inner circle situated with all that. So my goal more is to make money and then be able to bring my family together.
In the future, do you want kids?
Yeah, I would like kids. Part of me wants like a kid of my own, but I'm also like nervous in the sense that since I do have mental health like battles, I don't want my kid to also have mental health battles like in the future. Um,
Mm.
and I know there's a possibility that they won't. But because I know how I think and it's a possibility that it can be passed down, I get a little nervous with that. Um, I'm not opposed to adopting, but I would like one of my own, one of like my partner, and then if we can adopt a third one, that would be great.
So, if you already have bottom surgery while like about to try to have kids, are you going to freeze your eggs before you get bottom surgery, or are you uncertain if you're going to do
I'm uncertain because I know that if I have to freeze my eggs, I think I have to stay off hormones for a certain amount of time first.
it? Yeah.
Um, and I don't know how that's gonna affect me. The idea of it, I would love to, as a a plan B, but I think right now I need to make sure that like mentally I'm okay to be off hormones before I do a jump like that.
Okay. Yeah, I believe it's to stay off hormones. I believe you need to stay off of it for 3 to 6 months. And with your anxiety and depression, that's definitely going to be a little bit of a, you know, not a good thing. That's why I'm asking, because I know that if you decide to freeze them, you would have to set the right things up and talk to your therapist and everything like that.
Yeah, I feel hopeful. Like I feel like I would have a solid team if the opportunity comes and I choose to freeze my eggs.
Mhm.
Um, but I know sometimes like someone can tell you something that would be helpful, but if you're not open to kind of listening at that moment, it doesn't help. So I think mentally preparing in general would be a good start. Um,
Yeah, definitely do everything mentally before ever even thinking about lifting your hand to do it.
right.
You got to make sure what you're doing is what you want. And honestly, I'm very happy for you. You're able to finally achieve what you've been wanting for a while. And I feel like in the future, it's definitely going to play a big role of the new person you're becoming, or finally becoming the person you always have been, at least physically, let alone mentally.
I really appreciate that. That's really sweet. Thank you.
No problem. So, is there anything else that you would like to kind of talk about before we end off the podcast, or any last words you want to like say to them, or anybody else who is possibly going through the changes as well as top surgery and being trans and anything like that?
I think the best advice for anyone in this situation is to take everything with a grain of salt. You're gonna have people who are gonna hate you, and you're gonna have people who are gonna love you. And the people who love you are gonna be the voices that need to be heard in your head. So take every day, day by day, deep breaths, know your coping mechanisms, and just know that the outcome is gonna be okay.
I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. And if you ever have any questions or if you need any links to like the name changes and anything like that, let me know.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.